Intrepid searching voices grew and echoed, swelling uncomfortably in the uneasy translucent dark. What kind of fool would make such a noise here? There could be anything waiting in the dark. And then it dawned on him that it was him murmuring, and it seemed that someone was answering. But he was just one of many disembodied voices. And as the cacophony grew, he realized that the voices weren't talking to each other. They weren't talking to anyone but themselves. Later his sight returned more clearly, revealing the shimmering, shadowy nature of this strange pit. Finally his taste and smell returned, revealing a tangy mist that drifted over him and swirled visibly upwards towards a blister of light that must have been his entry point. Then the familiar waspy buzzing started up close to his ear, followed by a derisive giggle.
Have you guessed yet?
Demanded the little voice. It should have been directly at his ear, yet he had felt no breath. Jeffrey Borscle felt no need to respond to this apparently omniscient voice.
Have you guessed what's been wrong with you all these years?
Asked the wasp with rising irritation.
Look at yourself. Is it not obvious?
A shimmering black mirror appeared above him, generated out of the swirling haze. He looked reasonable, even nondescript. He shrugged.
Exactly,
replied the voice like a petulant teacher.
You could barely describe yourself. Nothing to you, really, is there?
Nothing to him? He'd managed his whole life the way he had been. It was quite absurd to suggest that he was nothing. Everybody he had ever known had addressed him as an individual, and he had returned the compliment. The wasp's petulant tone annoyed him even more, as it was trying to conform his views to its own reality. This mist of anonymity and homogeneity of identity had only just descended upon him, and so it irked him that the wasp was insisting this had been a constant of his life.
Okay, maybe I was being too hostile. Reflect on your life. What do you truly remember as unique from the experiences of others?
This only annoyed him further. Now the wasp was implying true omniscience. What utter nonsense. What complete and utter... And then it struck him again. The sickness overwhelmed him, and the misty mirror dissolved into a flickering fractal of body parts, and his taste dissolved into a tangy fudge. If I can suffer individually, how can I be anonymous, a nothing?
No one said you didn't exist. That's silly. Just that your self-perception, or indeed your perception, is wrong.
Self-perception? You're calling into question my entire self.
Are we? What makes you think it's you that's struggling, and not the entire world? We just explained that your perception of the world is crumbling. Have you never considered it could be the entire world?
He had lived for decades in his reality. Nothing had occurred to seriously challenge his world view until very recently.
It's true, of course, but we've always been here.
How could they have guessed his thoughts so clearly?
For the same reason that you can hear ours.
Jeffrey Borscle glanced around, looking for his antagonist.
Have you ever actually seen us directly?
Slowly, On the edge of perception, his vision began to change. The babble of voices grew louder, and the darkness around him began to evaporate. In great waves of emotion, the voices scattered around him. Thousands of them, and he was one of them. Now the light above him seemed closer, and he could move towards it. He could move wherever he wanted. He could fly. We can fly.